Okay, so now we've got a Kevin James movie that doesn't suck. Here Comes the Boom. Here Comes the Boom stars Kevin James as Scott Voss, a formerly great high school teacher who has fallen prey to the system that no longer cares about his students. He was a great teacher and a great mentor at one point in time, and he's also a former collegiate wrestler. And he is now none of that. He's lethargic, he's late to school, his whole universe has fallen out of balance. When school budget cuts leave the school's music program in danger of being cut altogether, leaving the music teacher Henry Winkler's character Marty out of work, Kevin James decides uncharacteristically to stand up and try to create some form of fundraiser that will keep Marty's job. Eventually, he discovers that the most money he could possibly make is actually by losing fights in the mixed martial arts world. So he decides to do that. Along the way, he begins training. He starts to get a little bit of pride back in himself, and he also rediscovers what it is that made him a great teacher and a great mentor. And before the story is over, he does achieve what he once was, at least in terms of becoming a mentor. Now, Kevin James' character along the way is surrounded not so much by allies, but by mentors. Every character he's surrounded with in the story is someone he can learn from. They're either teaching him something he needs in the ring, or they're teaching him something he needs out of the ring. He basically has mentors teaching him wrestling and mentors teaching him striking, as well as mentors basically keeping him morally on point as the story progresses. Many of the people that are keeping him on point are the people he's actually trying to help. So you have a community of mentors, and that's actually what this story is about. This is actually a story of mentors finding the mentor path, and it works pretty well. It's pretty effective. Here comes the Boom's antagonist. It doesn't really have a villain. Is Principal Belcher, who's essentially a principal trying to run a tight ship in this situation, whereas we've mentioned before, nobody actually really cares about the students anymore. Principal Belcher is the man in charge of all of that, and he's the man in charge of making the budget cuts. He presents a fairly he does his job as the villain. You don't really like him that much, but by the end of the film, you do realize he's not really evil, although maybe he's not the best principal there ever was. Now, on the upside, this is a pretty fun movie. It's not the funniest comedy in the world, and I'm not sure it was really meant to be. In fact, the comedy slows it down a little bit, but it is a pretty good sort of Rocky-esque sports picture. It the action is pretty entertaining. Nobody really drops the ball too bad. The comedy will keep a smile on your face rather than necessarily keeping you in stitches. All in all, I had a lot of fun watching the film. On the downside, the comedy isn't that great. Now, the comedy isn't going to ruin the film, but it's never going to put you in stitches. There are no big gags that just have you rolling. And the few times they try for one of those, it doesn't really work. It's much better when it's focusing on the action and the character development, and it does it pretty good. So, in the end, my review of this film, I want to give it 4 stars because of how much fun it is, but given the fact that it's billed as a comedy, it kind of has to be 3. It's a good movie, not a great one. I'm not even sure it's very good. So we've got to go with 3 stars. I like the film more than that, but there isn't enough to the film to warrant giving it the higher rating. So I'm gonna go 3 stars with this one. So have you seen Here Comes the Boom? And did you notice the parallels between Here Comes the Boom and the much, much darker, more serious Warrior? There is a great one. So let me know what you think of either one of those two movies.